Hey everyone, I didn't really get all dolled up today or right now for this video because I wanted to make this video sooner rather than later because I could feel myself getting angrier and angrier, and I wanted to make this video with as little anger as possible. Not necessarily because I'm not frustrated by the article, but because I know that if I speak purely in anger, what I say will not be taken as seriously. So there was an interesting article that was published on Medium by a woman named Katie McCort that was titled, "When Systematic Hatred of Women Online Goes Unnoticed, What Does It Say About Us?" And it's about a 40-minute read, and it really is focusing on the Reylo fandom in Star Wars and the misogynistic attacks that people who ship Reylo have gotten online, primarily on like Twitter and Tumblr, how a lot of it is done because of bad faith narratives and a whole bunch of other kind of things. It's so hard for me to talk about this because I literally, like, you know, a month ago did a video about problematic shipping and how, you know, let people ship what they want to ship, hate what you hate, do it on the tags. Like, problematic shipping has always existed, it's nothing new, and I made it very clear I don't like Reylo because I just don't want to, like, it doesn't make me all tingly, so I don't really like it, you know? It's not my thing. I think what's frustrating about the article, which I'm gonna link to it below. If you would like to read it, I would say go to do so. It has a lot of statistics in it, and it makes valid points about sort of like that there is always online a sort of like collective way that we talk about and belittle the things that women are interested in as a whole. What frustrated me and led to backlash from a lot of other women, especially women of color and black and brown women, was the fact that it kind of felt like the article was sort of erasing the very lived experiences of black and brown fans, specifically in Star Wars, who had been dealing with racism, the racism that John Boyega has been facing, and why it ended up coming out the way it did with the video that he did on his Instagram. It synthesized everything to focus on Reylo in a way that I personally felt was just very, like, for lack of a better word, I felt it was grimy. It was just grimy because I just felt like there's a really big issue when we turn every aspect of fandom into a social justice issue, when we take the language of oppression and transform it into shipping. Because, and like, I cannot say this any more emphatically than I can say right now, like, shipping is not representation, shipping is not civil rights. Fandom is something that you choose to participate in. There should be rules of conduct, absolutely. I think even separating the racial element from it, I think the thing that confuses me about the Reylo conversation is, like, what is it really trying to say that we don't already know, and what damage is it doing by framing the conversation about Reylo and about Star Wars racism and all those other issues and just pivoting it all to like the bots and like the left being too, you know, quick to fight. This is how fandom is. Fandom is hyperbolic, shipping is hyperbolic, it breeds hyperbolic language. It's not a reason to be abused, it's not a reason to get attacked. There is nothing about Reylo that is unique in any way. Like, I'm sitting here and I'm just thinking to myself, like, everything that you can say about Reylo, you can say about something like Spuffy, you know, that you can say about any couple on True Blood, that you can say about multiple other ships that are super popular, about two attractive white people being together, doing their thing. Like, this is the fact that we are having a conversation about the right for women to hyperactively ship a relationship between two cis white hetero characters is just really fucking exhausting. Like, there are black and brown Reylo shippers, absolutely, there have to be. It's the biggest ship in Star Wars, pretty much. It's super popular. Like, and I get why people ship Reylo. I don't ship it, it's not my thing, but I get why people ship it. But you can tell it's a majority white ship because of all of the fucking hand-wringing that's being done to like be like, let's ship Reylo in peace. Like, you should ship Reylo in peace. Do that. enjoy that. But when you are existing on a forum that is interactive and there's a lot of racial dynamics going on about shipping and fandom, asking that there be more perspective in how we communicate and talk about these issues should not be so far-fetched. Like, for me, it's like, John Boyega went off. I don't blame him for that. Like, he has been dealing with abuse in fandom for the long time. Everyone's like, well, it's not Reylo's fault. And I'm just like, it's not about Reylo. Reylo's not more important than racism. That's what it feels like. Black and brown women don't get protected. We don't get protected as fans. We don't even get to be the platforms to be like big name fans in the fandom unless we do our Twitter threads for free and do all this kind of stuff. Like, we don't get the clout to even do that. And we can disagree and have arguments about what we like and what we don't like. One of my really good friends online, you know, she's Latinx, she loves The Rise of Skywalker. We have opposing viewpoints on certain things, but we do understand the complexity of what it's like to be a brown person in Star Wars. There is so much desire to pivot to white women in fandom, especially white straight women, that it becomes damn near impossible to be taken seriously about your opinion no matter where you land, because someone's always trying to like take your opinion and pivot it somewhere else for their own means. And it's just exhausting. Like, even just the whole fact that like, because it has toxic elements and it has gotten kind of like a backlash to me is like, yeah, that's what happens to these kind of ships. Like, Spuffy does with the same thing. Ask a Lily and Snape shipper how their shipping experience goes. For me, I ship Zutara, which is not canon, but is still the most fire ship of all the Avatar: Last Airbender fandoms. Like, we're the best. Like, even when Legend of Korra came out and it came out that like, you know, Katara and Zuko were both still alive, we were like, geriatric Zutara forever. Like, we were called delusional. It was brought up that like, it's toxic, that there's imperialism elements to it. All that stuff got discussed. Again, why are we treating Reylo as if like it is some kind of like sacred like thing that needs to be protected? And that's what bothers me. And I think that's what's so alienating about this conversation about how do we deal with misogyny in fandom. I'm not a bot. I'm not a faceless person on the internet. Like, I'm a black woman who's in fandom, has been in fandom since I was like 14 years old. I know what my experience is. I know what I've seen before the bots were even an issue. We are sort of flattening the conversation about the issue. Is there misogyny and sexism in the way people talk about Reylo? Absolutely. But again, why do we spend so much time discussing, interrogating, fighting with bots, alt-right fanboys, and bad faith, you know, discussions, and not focus when the discussion is coming from black women, brown women, queer women who are in good faith saying, this is why I don't like your thing, this is why I feel this way. Why are we always getting shunted? The flattening of womanhood is a problem when we talk about these things, because yes, even if the majority of the discourse is coming from like bots, we can address that and still be like, but let's not get it twisted. There is still this real deep core of racism in the fandom that has trickled down into every aspect of it, including shipping. In good faith to the writer of the Medium article, I do understand how it can be hard to navigate that situation when you're not of that race or ethnicity. Like, I know the Twilight discussion, backlash was overhyped because something that women like, but at the same time, there is a conversation about race in Twilight and how problematic that is. And I remember on Tumblr saying this and having indigenous people who were fans of Twilight say that they actually liked it. So I totally get how, if like I'm not indigenous, at least not in that context, why I would be like, I'm gonna back up that conversation. So I understand why, if you as a white woman are not a minority and you don't feel the grip of trying to step on black and brown Reylo's toes. But I think even like, if you are a black shipper of any popular white ship, you see, at least to a degree, that there's racism in your fandom. And I always say, if the fandom glove does not fit, you must scroll. Scroll. It's not about you. I know I am friends with Reylo shippers, and I know that they love their ship, but they can also see the bullshit. Just from my perspective of what I would see as someone who shipped, you know, Finn Rey, Finn Poe, all the other things, was like, oh, you just want Rey and Finn together because he's black. there are microaggressions even within some people who mean well, but we're trying to dismiss Finn Ray as an option by saying low-key shady things about, you know, Finn, who was being shitted on in the Star Wars fan base from the very moment his head popped up in the sand. And I think for me, as a black fan, as a black Star Wars, you know, fan, I wish that I felt the protection that that article is trying to have about women. I wish that that article made me feel as if it cared about my feelings as a woman, as a black woman. I never feel that way for the most part, unless I'm in spaces that I've cultivated to feel that way. And I have to deal with that, and I do deal with it because I recognize that, like, this is just the way it is. I wish that we felt protected, that it wasn't just black women and a few allies who defend John Boyega from racism. Like, he has been dealing with racism from the very beginning. But yeah, we have to have a whole conversation about Reylo. And honestly, and I know this might sound kind of shitty, but I'm just gonna say it. What John Boyega went through in terms of racism is more important than Reylo. What the brown characters, what Kelly Marie Tran went through in Star Wars, more important than Reylo. What, you know, Oscar Isaac and his character, what happened with him, more important than Reylo. All of these things are more important than Reylo, more internalized than Reylo, more things that we're gonna see keep going on than Reylo. And it affects women too. And it would just be nice if an article like this, that spends so much time on data, to also understand that, like, black women and brown women in fandom always have to hold two things at once. We always have to, like, go back and forth between who we are as women and who we are as marginalized bodies. What I brought up at one time was how the Reylo situation, like the Reylo Finn Ray situation, reminded me of Wynonna Earp. Because in the first season of Wynonna Earp, there's Wynonna, who's the main character, and her two love interests are like Dolls, a black man, and Doc, a white man. And it seemed like they were gonna be all on the same plane. And then as the show progresses, it definitely is the black man is being pushed aside and the white man is being brought more in. And then they introduce a Latina character who the fandom hates because she's in the way of the white ship, and then that happens. And then the black person gets pushed off so much that he, you know, the character eventually gets killed off because the actor wanted to leave. The fandom, the black and brown fandom of Wynonna Earp say, like, this is upsetting. White fandom says, not all of them, but members of the white fandom are like, you're making it into a bigger deal than it is. It's not about race, it's about blah blah blah. Every single time. And it would be nice if the same way that I, someone who hates Reylo, can say, of course there's misogyny in how Reylo is discussed. Of course there's issues about misogyny within how Reylo is framed and the way that we sort of like treat women as if they are like always hysterical. Of course that's an issue. And also, there is a way that some Reylo shippers have co-signed racist microaggressions about Finn, about John Boyega, about that whole situation that has become embedded into the Reylo brand. How about you work on fixing that, then making us feel like we're, you know, harassing you, that we're alt-right trolls by addressing the fact that, like, we don't feel included in your shit. Every time black people, black women say there is racism in fandom, everyone's like, is it though? Why don't you just do something else? Why don't you just, like, build a better timeline? I'm very upfront about my faults and my failures as a feminist and my failures to, you know, level up. I know when I was hating Twilight, it was not because of the native issue stuff. And when I found out about that reality and found out about, like, how people thought about it, I added that onto my discourse. But I know initially that while Twilight is still a bad book, still has abusive elements, so on and so forth, like, I wasn't attacking it because of the genuine problematic nature. I was just doing it because, one, it was bad, but two, it was also annoying that every girl in my school liked it. I went to all girls school, so like everyone I knew liked it. And I felt isolated by that. So I know that. I know how the cool girl stereotype can be used to, like, drag down other women. I get all of it. I do the work to unpack that. I have been trying to learn to change my language, to be very upfront about my biases. Y'all have to do the same. Otherwise, we're just kind of stuck in the same pattern over and over again, where it's like, we don't trust you. Person on Twitter who I really like was asking me, like, why I thought this way, and like, how can you have a good faith conversation with all of this? And you can't. I know it's kind of out of context, but I will say this one line from the article really bothered me, where she said, Furthermore, the people who ship Rey and Finn, also known as Finray, have done little to celebrate this pairing and act as a fan community. In fact, they have consistently acted more like a group that seeks to find ways to activate hate against Reylos instead of create content for their ship. I read this in context, I read it again. This is the line in the essay that made me like, because I got really pissed off. Because as someone who has shipped many interracial ships, I can't even begin to express to you how frustrating it is to like have been happy about those relationships, proud of those pairings, enjoy those pairings, and watch them just get shitted on the entire time. So many times. Like, I remember I would go into the Bayman tag sometimes, and they would have race bent Kate Graham to be a white woman. They would make her the chick from Karen Gillan from Guardians of the Galaxy. West Allen spends enough time having to defend Candace Patton's very existence on the Flesh as they do to celebrate her. Arthur and Gwen and Merlin was a canon ship that didn't even kiss in the last season because they wanted so much to appeal to like the Merthyr fan base. And I would see people try to use LGBT representation to explain why this interracial ship was homophobic to their experience. I would see women be called dogs. Like, beautiful black women getting called dogs. People wanting to basically like say the worst things about Martha Jones, to the point where when I first started watching Doctor Who, and I was like, oh, the Martha season, that's the one everyone says is bad. And I'm watching, I'm like, there's nothing wrong with Martha. And I realized, oh, she took that white woman's place, and therefore they're salty. Every single time. Like, even with Winona Earp, which is a show that I love. Every single, you know, woman of color is there as competition every single time. Like, it makes you not want to create content. I love Finray. I think Finray was cute. I mean, I do think that Rey should be queer. I honestly would ship her with a woman if she had a female friend that they would do that with. But I liked Finray. I thought they had really good chemistry. I thought they were very sweet together. But like, it's hard to get emotionally invested because you don't trust the writers. I didn't trust that Finray would happen because I just know how this works. And that's not accounted for. The experience of watching women that look like you and men that look like your brothers and your fathers get dogpiled on constantly by almost every fandom you're a part of is not considered. And that's what's so enraging. And I don't think that the article, sorry, I'm getting emotional. Didn't want to do that, but I am. I don't think they did it on purpose, but it is a fandom problem. Black and brown people do not get to enjoy fandom the way that we should, because there always has to be a situation, whether it be anime, whether it be Star Wars, anything. We don't get to enjoy. If you're marginalized and sit at any intersection, you are dealing with twice the fucking stress. And that solidarity that they want from us, they don't give us in the same way. Like, you should not be harassing Reylo. You definitely shouldn't be doxing Reylo. No one should have their judgment as a feminist, as a person of color, be judged on what they ship. But when I saw some tweet that was like, they were responding to a white man, and they were like, if you see women as only including white women and cis women, that should make me talk about how you feel about women. And I wanted to be like, I didn't, because I don't want to, I try not to start shit if I don't have to, because also you can get caught up in all kinds of shit. But I genuinely wanted to be like, well, as a black bisexual woman, I don't feel solidarity with women in that way, because I know that that's what y'all mean. Woman, as if that is one universal thing that we all experience. Like, I'm a descendant of slaves. My womanhood was not given to me. That shit was earned over years of fucking activism. So don't come here and talk to me about like, oh, why do you assume it means white cis het women? That's who you prioritized. We're sitting here talking about the legitimacy of a heterosexual ship. In 2020, we are talking about women's right to ship two hetero people together. That's what we're doing. It's ridiculous. And I don't want to be mad about it because, again, ship what you want. But why is this a conversation? People are shitting on Twitter. There is no black woman whose mentions are without fuckery. Like, they have a platform, they're hearing comments like that every single day. You were hearing it because of a ship. And as I said before, I am tired of prioritizing white men and their companions in the criticism that I have about stuff. When I critique stuff for its feminist content, I'm talking to other feminists. I'm not talking to these other people anymore. It's so hard. It's so hard to talk about this and be rational, because Shipping is not rational. Shipping is about feeling and about emotion. It's about being moved to create things. And I think that it's beautiful and great that people who ship Reylo are making great art. They should be left alone. They should be able to do this stuff on their tags. And my God, do I believe that we should just segregate all this kind of shit. The one pro-segregation thing I am is that like shipping and fandom, whoo, should they be segregated? Leave it alone. Leave people alone. I get feeling shitty when people shit on your ship. I get it. I like so many unpopular ships. I love like Christopher and Lorelai on Gilmore Girls. That's my favorite ship on that show. I hate Luke. And so I get that like you feel like people judging you on your ship is grimy, and they shouldn't, and that needs to be fixed. When you flatten the conversation to build a narrative that makes it seem as though the only people having issues with the ship are bots and men, you are doing the same erasure that you're saying that we're doing to Reylo fans who are not white. We are just asking for the same amount of good faith response when we say that there is a race problem, for it to not be flattened. And even if you don't feel equipped to just the whole thing, at least address it in some way. I have to do that work. Everyone has to do that work. Everyone has to do the work. But I beg of you, I beg, please stop using the language of oppression to talk about two white characters, to talk about a white ship that's heterosexual. I beg of you. It's too much. And I'm gonna do a whole video eventually about how like queer shipping usually doesn't help, you know, queer women of color, but this Reylo conversation it has just really gotten to me because I love so many Reylo people. I even, you know, the person I first saw who tweeted the article is someone who I really like and respect. And it's not about her or the people who do feel attached to it. It's about the flattening of the conversation to ignore race, which is historically what's always been done in fandom anyway. Anyway, thank you to my patrons for supporting me. I will have some more videos up soon. That Watchmen Joker video is coming. I just gotta watch Joker again, which is very difficult, but I'm gonna watch it again just so I can make sure everything is in tip-top shape. That'll be coming before the end of the month. And then I did a vote on my channel, and the next video after Joker will be a video about Witcher, which will be up a lot sooner than it took me to make the Joker Watchmen video. So I apologize for that, but everything is coming. I have a few more videos that are just, you know, more rant-like coming up, and I will see you soon. Let me know your thoughts below. Be respectful. You can be angry, but be respectful.